I'm going to spotlight myself, but you can go back to gallery view if you'd rather see everybody. So, hello. My talk tonight is about mindfulness and creativity. And I believe the practice really can help us to be more exploring and more spontaneous in all the things that we do. You know, all the things that we do so much in our lives, and almost everything we do can benefit from being in a more creative state. I don't know the kinds of things that you do if you want to call out, like my days are usually working on some websites and maybe doing some graphics and cooking a meal, at least one, and talking to friends, you know, expressing opinions, writing my books. All these things require that I kind of be creative about it. And I really love that about my life now that I'm retired, because when I was working, it wasn't all as much fun as it is now. So I recommend retiring when you can. So whatever you're doing, you'll be more effective if you can figure out how to be creative. And my talk tonight is really about how to take yourself into a creative state. It's something you can learn to do. You know, we kind of think of, it depends how you define creativity, but Vajrayana Buddhism defines creativity as having not so much to do with your skills or your ability, but more, not your actions, not your behaviors, but more about your state of being. The idea is that creativity is a state of natural flow, kind of what we call being in the zone. And, you know, meditation practice is all about being present and being in this moment. And that's when we're present, we can enter that natural flow. That's what we do in our practice. We enter the natural flow. We travel with the stream of how everything is always changing. That's why we call ourselves mountain stream, because we're up in the mountains and everything's always changing. So can we enter the stream and move with that natural flow and be truly present? And it becomes, when we can enter this state, the mind is pretty effortlessly creative. So what I want to talk tonight about is how can we get there? Because there's times when we don't feel creative. So when we are in this state, there's different things that we might give birth to, we might create. You know, it might be some kind of new thing that wasn't there before that we put out into the world, like a painting or a chapter in a book, or I can't imagine, but some people write symphonies. And those are like forms or objects that we might create in our creative state. But the desired result of our creativity might not be an object like that. It might be a desired result. Like we want to talk to somebody about something and get them to see our point of view. That happens a lot. And if we can do it creatively, we might be more successful if we can, you know, just get into the right place when we're explaining something to somebody. And so tonight I'm trying to explain to you about creativity. So I'm trying to get into that place to be creative in my explanations about creativity. So once we get into this state of flow, our experience changes. Our energy is more, and our state of mind opens up, but we're still calm confident, body relaxes, we're in a state of ease, our emotional state changes. We're open to the heart states, joy, compassion, peace, loving kindness. And this is the state of creativity. This is the state of natural flow. So powerful. So what I'd like to suggest to you is that there are two things you can do mindfully to enter this zone state and to tap into this creative flow. And I think it's really important that we learn to do that, because every moment that you spend in that state sows benefits for you. Our mind, our body, our spirit, our heart, these benefits extend to all parts of us. It's just very healthy and enhancing state for us to be in. And we're so, we do things better when we're in that state. We're just tuned in. I know when I'm in a good state, I can paint better paintings. I can write more genuinely what I really want to say. And my experience is that people are, when I read it to my little writing group, they're more moved if I'm in that zone. And so in my writing, that's been my goal now, is to just write about things I really care about and put my heart into it while I'm writing and try to be in that state. And it helps solving problems, at work or in family with loved ones, because you can shift your thought patterns to something new, something you hadn't thought of before, something that comes up spontaneously, something creative. So I would like to suggest to you that there are two parts of learning how to enter the zone. And just to give you an overview of the two parts, I think the first part is that we have to clean house. And by clean house, I mean, we have to kind of learn not to act from fear and not to act from hopes and fears. It's an interesting part about Buddhism that, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. If we're driven by hopes and fears, the flow state won't be open to us. So those are blocks to entering the zone. And that's the first part. The second part of these two parts of how to get there is to move into the heart and learn to nurture a sense of warmth for all things, for all beings. This sense of warmth aligns us with the beauty all around us, and our thoughts and feelings will arise in collaboration with that beauty. So we will enter a kind of spaciousness, open to that spaciousness. And so I gave you two things. One is this hard work about working with hopes and fears and negative emotions. I want to go into that in more detail. And the other is opening to this beautiful spaciousness. They're kind of a paradox, they're kind of the opposite. But a lot of important things come wrapped in paradoxes, I've noticed. So sometimes we need to do these two opposite things even at the same time. Now, learning to do this may not happen overnight, but even the smallest effort can make a big difference. It's worth it to start to try this out, to take baby steps, and to move more towards mindful creativity. And as meditators, you have a leg up because you've learned the techniques in meditation. I'll get to that. All right, let's look at the housekeeping part first, cleaning house. And I talked about acting from hopes and fears. You know, in Buddhism, when I first heard the word hopes and fears, the words hopes and fears used together in kind of a negative way, I was surprised, and I was like, well, what's wrong with hope? You know, most religions really promote hope. And there are Buddhist teachers who have spoken about the power of hope. But generally in Buddhism, you'll see hopes and fears together, because if you think about it, neither of them happen in the present moment. Like hope is like leaning forward. It's not taking your seat and staying there. It's leaning forward towards some desired result that hasn't happened yet. And fears are the same way. It's leaning away from some undesired result that hasn't happened yet. So both of them are imaginary. Neither of them are in the present. That's why you see hopes and fears linked together like that. So a lot of the time we are caught up in our hopes and fears. And when that happens, we're caught up more in the result that we're hoping for or afraid of, rather than letting things arise spontaneously. Just example, suppose you're playing the piano and you're so worried about, or you so much hope the audience will like what you're doing, or you're so afraid that they won't. So you won't be in the moment. You won't be in the zone, and your playing will probably be more stilted because you're not really present to it. You've got this extra layer, and getting rid of that extra layer is what I'm calling cleaning house. If you are painting a watercolor and you're so worried about, your hand slipping or something, and that you'll mess up your piece of artwork that looks so good now, and I don't want to mess it up. I get that thought sometimes when I'm painting. You won't be having a good time. You won't be free with it. If you give a gift to somebody and you're so worried, how will it be perceived? Will the person like it? Did it cost enough? Is it beautiful enough? You won't communicate generosity. You'll communicate these hopes and fears. And the person getting the gift may not really feel that it's coming from your heart. So the thing here is that when we get caught up in our hopes and fears, we're focusing on the goal. We're focusing on the product. We want a good painting. We want a good musical, a good piano recital. We want a nice gift, rather than the process, rather than, enjoying the process of painting, making music, finding and giving a gift. So it's about being in the process, not the product. And so if we stay in the process, we can enter that state of flow. So I think there's 3 parts to these cleaning house. And one is to realize and listen to our own self-doubts. We all have these old thought patterns, these old tapes that we play, and many of them are telling ourselves that we're not good enough. And if we can learn to listen to our own self-doubts and challenge them, and say, hey, I am good enough. We have these perfectionistic tendencies. This is not perfect. Nothing's perfect. It's made by human beings. We never do anything perfect. So just reminding myself, hey, this is not art from a machine. This is art from a human being whose hand sometimes shakes, and that's okay. So we have these self-doubts, we have negative emotions. And the third thing is that we have a certain kind of arrogance. sometimes we act out of kind of self-aggrandizing motives. They're going to think, oh, they're going to think I'm so fabulous. Me, 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 me. So with self-doubts, we just have to learn to pay attention to our inner dialogue. And that's what we do in the practice. So you already probably have heard a lot of your inner dialogue. So when approaching something challenging and wanting to be in the zone and do it creatively, watch for your self-doubts. Watch for, I'm not good enough. And all you have to do with those thoughts is notice them and be aware that they're going on. See that they're judgments and that the judging mind is not going to be helpful. So this is a primary obstacle to that flow of creativity. Another thing we can do that we've learned to do for meditation is move into the body. What I'm seeing these days is that the body moves much more slowly than the mind. You know, the mind is so fast and it's leaping from one thing to another, but the body goes more slowly. And the body being in the body, the reason the practice has us start with coming into the body is because there's more of a stillness that we can find through the body that you may not be able to find if you're in the mind. So if we can stay with that stillness in the body, gradually we may learn how to translate that stillness, that spaciousness into a mind state and help us to enter into the zone. We may have certain kinds of physical blockages, like we hold tension in the neck or in our back, and can we locate those things and breathe into them, release the shoulders, and just let those blockages dissolve. And if we can do that, this spaciousness can open up in us. This quality of being in the flow and staying there. Working with negative emotional states, I'll just talk about anger because it's pretty easy to see. Of course, there's other negative states, envy, resentment, you know them. But aversiveness, anger is, if we can notice when we're angry, because we just notice it. That's how we start. We just know, oh boy, am I angry? And just let it be, because it's just what is. And you can't say, you know, get this out. You can't lean away from it. You may even want to paint an angry painting. You may want to express it and dash angry strokes of paint across a canvas. Be with the anger, look at it, let it be ugly, and let it be pure in what it is, and accept it. And if we can be with our anger, as we know from practice, by being with things that are difficult, just by being with them, they lose some of their power. And it may be helpful to realize how much anger limits us, because anger prevents metta. Anger prevents warmth and friendliness. But maybe we could befriend the anger. Maybe you could throw a mindful arm around your angry heart and invite it to take it easy. But the main thing here is to squarely face our negative emotions. We all have them. Human beings have them. Feel them deeply, live with them, not push them aside. Make friends with them in a way. And don't let them turn on us. Don't let them turn on others. I have a friend, I've had a friend for a long time, and I know that none of you know her, so I can talk about it a little bit, but she's very devoted to feeling her negative emotions in a healthy way. But sometimes I think when she feels anger, part of feeling it fully for her is that she has to express it to the person she's angry to. And I think that's a real misunderstanding. She and I have been talking about this for about 8 years now, but hopefully someday I'm going to get through to her. But I think that's a real misunderstanding. Feeling anger and expressing it by hurting somebody, those are two very different things. So I have to draw a line there. So bringing mindfulness to see our aversions, our angers, our negative emotions, not judge ourselves for them, and gradually they resolve. So that's the first half, what I call cleaning house, looking at these difficult things and kind of cleaning up. And I know as meditators, you've come across all this stuff over the years, and I know you've been working on this because that's what meditators do. So the second part that I mentioned that will help us to enter the zone is to open up our hearts. You know, when I discovered practice, when I discovered Buddhism, I thought mindfulness was the key to the universe. I just was so amazed at the power of being present, and how it was so life-changing for me. And if I could get concentrated and enter the present moment deeply, experience this kind of timelessness. And then it was just last January, I did a talk, and I know I did the talk here in this group, on mindfulness of the body. And I talked about, I felt I needed to talk a little bit about how so many people, especially younger people, I think as we get older, we resolve this, but we hate our bodies. You know, I just hated my body when I was young. And how can you be mindful of your body when you're hating it? And I had this insight as I was looking at this, that mindfulness is not mindfulness without loving kindness. Mindfulness is not mindfulness without loving kindness. Mindfulness cannot be clinical. Mindfulness has to have that warmth. And then you have these two wings of Buddhism. You've probably heard wisdom and compassion. So what that means is, yes, I'm mindful, but I also have this warmth. And you bring the two together with mindfulness and metta, and it makes something very special happen. We bring the heart into all situations. And I think this is the key for me now, that mindfulness is not enough. It has to be mindfulness with warmth, and nourishing this sense of warmth and letting it arise in our heart. So I think that's the second part of creativity and getting in the zone. Being mindful of our process, and then let a certain kind of joyfulness arise about it, a sense of warmth. You know, I'm gonna do things I really like in this painting. I really like a little dot of red right there. Oh, that makes me so happy. And just kind of bringing in that kind of joyful exploration. And we open up, take chances. I do something called Zentangle. I just got my first vanity plate. It says Zentangle, spelled funny, spelled shorter. They don't give you that many letters, but. And I love this art form. It's some of you, I think, have taken a class with me, and I hope you found it fun. But what it is, it's drawing, and it's a couple of very creative people. He was a Zen monk. She was a world famous calligrapher. Found each other, and they invented this art form for everybody to do, that anybody can do it. You don't need to have any training to do wonderful Zentangles. You can Google it and see some of the work. So it's all about patterns. Patterns from every culture, patterns from every country, patterns from every century. And so you never have to like draw a dog or a duck and then you say, oh my God, it doesn't look like a dog. It doesn't look like that. It's just patterns. It doesn't have to look like anything. So that takes a whole layer of representationalism off the what's at stake. And they have this whole method, lovely method of drawing these patterns together, and it's just beautiful. But one of the things that they always say in Zentangle is no mistakes. There's no such thing as a mistake. And when your hand slips, and you make a horrible, ugly mark right across this beautiful, delicate thing that you've spent an hour doing, it's hard to make the shift and say, oh, this is the universe offering me an opportunity. Not, oh, I wrecked it, but this is an opportunity to go in a direction that I have never traveled before, to create something completely. So I love that attitude, and I think that's part of the creative process. So one last thing I wanted to talk about was visualization. You can bring your warmth to a process of visualizing what you want to do. Visualizing yourself relaxed, visualizing yourself friendly, warm, without nerves. You're going to job interview and you're going to be relaxed. You visualize it. I read this research with basketball players. I'm always just amazed at how athletes seem so spiritual. So many of them in their attitudes towards their performance. I'm sure you've noticed this. They know about being in the zone, and they know about not being in the zone. They know about negativity and how it can prevent the flow from arising. Everything I've been talking about. It's part of many athletes' philosophy that makes them the great athletes that they are. So there was this experiment where basketball players were asked to visualize themselves successfully making free throws, when you stand on that line and get 2 points or whatever. They had to visualize themselves making 10 successful free throws every night for a month. And then a different group of the same basketball players was asked to actually make 10 free throws a night. Both groups improved their success rate by 25%. Another group didn't do any of that, and they didn't improve at all, control groups. But it's so interesting to me that the visualizing group improved just as much as the ones who actually threw the ball. So I think visualizing can be very powerful as we approach, things that we want to do that may be challenging. So if we set up these right conditions, we work on cleaning house, we work on opening our hearts, we'll go in the zone, and we will naturally find our true creativity, and our heart will be open. We'll put just the right words into the story. We'll create a painting where people who see it can feel exactly what we felt. If you think about a Rembrandt, here it is, 350 years later, and we look at a Rembrandt and we feel what he felt because his feelings are in the paint, and it speaks to us over 350 years. That's not what he was thinking about when he painted it, because he wasn't thinking about the product. He was totally into the process. He was in the moment. He was in the zone. And the last little comment I want to make is about Buddhism and creativity, because some people have a misconception that Buddhism lumps creativity with sensory pleasure, and therefore thinks it's a distraction from what's important. And I disagree with that. I don't think that's Buddhist philosophy. If you think about all the beautiful art that Buddhism has inspired over the centuries in Asia and today in this country, sculptures, statues, monuments, temples, poetry, calligraphy, drawing, and even the Shakuhachi Flute, Some of you may have taken a writing course with me with Pat Miller. She plays the Shakuhachi Flute. She introduced me to it. And it's a bamboo flute from the 1500s in Japan. It's a very beautiful little simple instrument. And it was practiced by the Fuke sect of Zen Buddhism. And the flute, playing the flute, was their meditation practice. So I think that's just a beautiful, beautiful little thing to know about. Last note, Herbie Hancock is a Buddhist, and you can listen to him talk about Buddhism and how it changed his life. Leonard Cohen was a Buddhist. Steve Jobs went to India in 1974 and came back a Buddhist. Creative people who learned from Buddhism and brought it to their creativity. So that's what I have to say about creativity, and I would just love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to stop recording.